And today we have Doug Moore and Mike Brown with us from RC Parts, which many of you guys know as the Fast Parts System. And I'm going to turn it over to them and let them run the show.
Hello, thanks everyone. I'm Doug, and Mike Brown is also a member of the sales team, but he is the resident motor expert, so he's going to do a little bit of the chat a little while later in the presentation. But thanks for taking the time to spend this afternoon with us, and I'll try to dive into this really quick. I'm a rambler, so in order to keep us on time, I got to get going. You'll probably see, a couple logos, but obviously besides TEC and Excelsior that may or may not look somewhat familiar to you. The Fast OEM Parts logo is the OEM division of ICP Parts. And then what may be new to a lot of you is the Total Line logo. And that is new to the ICP channel. For years, Total Line was the exclusive aftermarket brand for the Carrier channel, and Fast HVAC Parts was the exclusive brand to the ICP channel. Well, we've now, we'll call it, we have obsoleted the Fast HVAC Parts, which again, that's only aftermarket parts, and consolidated both of our aftermarket brands to the Total Line brand. You may say, hey, well, what does that really mean to me? Well, first of all, the Total Line brand has been around a lot longer. We think it has better brand recognition out in the world, and it also has a more in-depth product offering than you've been used to with the Fast HVAC brand, or the Fast HVAC Parts brand. So hopefully I'm going to talk about a few benefits, as we go through the presentation, and then, hopefully that's good news for all of you and for your customers that recognize the Total Line brand. First and foremost, if you don't have the Fast Mobile app, I'd just like to encourage you, as we do just about with every presentation, for you to download that app. It's just a lot of good information on there. You can search BOMs while you're out in the field. If it's after hours or on weekends, you can check warranty information to see if the equipment is in warranty, which helps the installer have a different conversation maybe with the homeowner. It's got cross-reference tools in there. It's got a store locator that'll get you to your closest Excelsior location. If there's service history that's tied to that particular piece of equipment, it's going to help you identify that service history, and then also it keeps a history of your transactions and your searches for the last couple of weeks. One other thing that it does is it lists every single part by part number that's in that particular unit. So you can either scan the QR code or the barcode on the unit, or enter the model number, and it's going to give you every single part, from the screw that holds the cabinet together to the compressor or the coil. So rather than calling in to the branch and saying, hey, I need a 3/4 horsepower blower motor, you're going to be able to give the exact part number that you're looking for. If you haven't had it, and I'll show you quickly in the next slide, you can go to the Fast HVAC Parts website, and there's going to be the QR code there. That's really the easiest way to do it. But you can also search for it, the Fast Mobile Tech app in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. So it's available on both formats. If you're not familiar with the Fast HVAC Parts website, I encourage you to at least write the website down or snap a picture of it real quick, because there is a wealth of information out there. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it right now, but I do want to just go there really quick to point out some information. First of all, if you see up here on the apps, you'll recognize a lot of the information because that's what is in my slide. But if you'll scroll down here, you'll get those QR codes for downloading the app to your phone. Another pretty important and pretty powerful tool is the total line cross section, or the total line cross reference tool. So basically, you can go in any category here. We'll go in compressors because that's first, and you can just enter your compressor capacity and voltage and things like that, refrigerant, and it's going to present you with a whole lot of options that we have. And TEC and National Excelsior does an excellent job of stocking compressors. So if you're not buying your out of warranty compressors, or obviously you're in warranty compressors, but if you're working on other folks' equipment, Rheem, Goodman, York, Train, Lennox, and you're not happy with your compressor source, or even if you are happy with your compressor source and you're trying to get more points in some of the programs that TEC and National Excelsior offers, give them a try, because they have an excellent inventory of hermetic compressors. And then let me get back to.
And Doug, actually, while you're there,
Okay. Yep.
Can you go to the motors one real quick?
Just I can, for sure.
It's a little bit different looking than the compressor one, and instead of me jumping back to it later, it makes sense to do it now. So on the aftermarket motor one, it's a little different. Where on the right hand side, you'll see there's a red asterisk. On the left hand side, there's not any red asterisks, so you can kind of fill in the blank, so to speak, to give yourself some different selections. But Doug, if you can start to punch in 51 dash on the right hand side versus model number.
Gotcha. Yep.
It'll auto-populate some motors that are in there. So if you come across competitive equipment, I'm picking on Rheem here with the 51 nomenclature, but if you have Rheem or a Goodman, all those guys Train, there are over 4,000 cross references to motors in this tool that are downloaded. If it's not in there, you can use the left-hand side of this to fill in motor type and RPM and stuff like that to give your selections, appropriate selections for total line. So it's a good tool. Just to piggyback off what Doug was saying, just made sense to do it while you're right there, Doug. So it's a good tool, pretty robust, and easily accessible.
Good stuff. All right. Now, to get back to my presentation real quick. There we go. Okay, sorry. I'm a horrible driver. So anyway, yeah, the takeaway is there's a lot of cross-reference information there, and not only compressors and motors, but filter bases, capacitors, echo heaters, things like that. One other thing that you folks have access to, and it's a timely discussion, is Ecobee thermostats. Ecobee, basically, I'm not going to get into the weeds on Ecobee, but they have 2 thermostats and a sensor, and that basically is their product line, a real simple product line. They've got the smart thermostat, which has Alexa built in. You can talk to your thermostat. It has a really nice speaker. You can play music from your thermostat. You can do Alexa based searches off of your thermostat. It has the same interface on the thermostat on your wall as it is going to have on your cell phone. The Ecobee 3 Lite is just it works with the Alexa Echo and there's Alexa enabled devices and Google devices. It just doesn't have it built into the thermostat that's on the wall. But these thermostats, if you're not familiar with Ecobee, first of all, they have a lot of pull through from the consumer. The consumers the homeowners are familiar with Ecobee, and they're asking for these. We've had tremendous success. TEC has had tremendous success selling Ecobee. And right now, through the end of April, they actually have a $30 off promotion on the smart thermostat and a $20 off promotion on the Ecobee, the entry-level Ecobee 3 Lite. So now is a good time to offer those to your customers if you haven't, or try to get additional information from TEC. If you haven't been through an Ecobee training class, it's about a 2-hour training course that Ecobee puts on. Everyone that attends it gets one of the $250 thermostats, the Alexa enabled thermostat. But that's something get back with your branch managers, and we can talk about setting some of that training if you haven't been in that training. Real quickly, semi-hermetic compressors. If you've been on the National Excelsior side, you may not know that. Well, you haven't had access to these. The Carlisle compressors that Carrier manufactures. They developed a total line, which is a total, basically a remanufactured compressors that we do in the factory that are remanufactured to our specs. We're the only ones that know what the specs are. And it's when you're looking really to compete against some of these national rebuilders. There's a bunch of them out there, and the total line gives you an affordable option to compete against that group. One other thing real quickly, that's real popular out in the channel is the universal TXVs. There's basically 6 versions of these. There's 3 R410A, there's 3 R22. They're an excellent product to keep on your truck. They truly are a universal TXV. They've got within the box, they've got 3 different connections: the ODF, the Shatliff, and the AirEquip. So it covers the gamut for all manufacturers out there. These have been very successful throughout the entire Carrier ICP channel. It's just they're at an excellent price point compared to some of the manufacturers that are out there today, and it truly is a universal product. Again, 6 sizes cover the 1.5 ton to 6 ton systems in both R22 and 410A. If you're only working, typically only working on 410A stuff, then it's 3 sizes. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the better looking of the two, and he's going to discuss motors.
Funny, Doug. You might have to click to fill in the slide there.
Yeah.
All right. So my name is Mike Brown. Just a quick introduction. I am also a regional sales manager, like Doug is for you guys. I cover the Northeast. Doug had me jump on today because in my previous role for the last 4, almost 5 years, I was the motor product manager for replacement components. So just real, an overview here of ECM motors and the offering we have. A couple of grounding slides to kind of understand the why part of ECM motors is the U.S. Department of Energy, or the DOE as you would call them, came out with some regulatory things recently. It was in the makings for a good 10 years, but recently they've made the change to ECM motors, electronically commutated motors, rather than PSCs. PSCs being permanent split capacitors. At a high level, the reason for that is on the right-hand side, I'm a visual person, so I use light bulbs and whatever else, but you'll see that a PSC motor typically drawing a lot more watts than an ECM. that just signifies efficiency and money savings. So the Department of Energy kind of, I don't want to say attacked, but understanding that motors drive efficiency in units, said, well, that's an easy one because ECMs already exist. And if we can just force the industry to do it, then it's a cost savings and regulatory need. So that's kind of the grounding slide there. Next slide, please, Doug. And the big takeaway there is existing stuff's not affected. It's just stuff coming off the lines now.
Okay, I think I'm hung up for some reason.
You broke it.
There we go. Yes.
Same thing on this slide. So somebody, oh, you got to go back now. Now you're jumping. You might have to click one more time if there's a, yeah, it's trying to jump.
Oh, yep.
It's all right. Go back. I can handle it. All right. So ECM, there you go. It's fine. Just leave it. So ECM motors, electronically commutated motors, kind of a tongue twister, using the controls to vary the speed. So the thought process is here that the tin can looking thing and then the motor is actually what makes it efficient. It has a microprocessor in it along with the capacitor, which you'll no longer need external capacitors with ECM motors because it's internal. The takeaway is that those components make the motor operate smoother, more efficiently, and dials in speeds more correctly. The history of ECM motors, just to kind of ground everybody, I like to show this slide because it has been around since the late 80s. And over the, call it the evolution of the product, you've had variable speeds, you've had constant torques. You've also got a PWM, which we won't get into today because that takes a little more time, pulse width modulating. But the two common types that you see out there are the ones on the left-hand side, variable speeds, commonly called 4 pins or 16 pins. You'll see some kind of pinout on them like that. Those are on the higher end systems typically. So you'd find those on the truly modulating systems where the motor and the board actually communicate back and forth to each other. On the right-hand side where you've got the constant torque motors, you'd see X13 on their nameplate, Endura Pro, stuff like that, made by Regal Beloit Motors. Those are very prevalent in your entry tiers and mid tiers. The snapshot that we can't get to work on the screen was just showing the module separated from the motor. But the takeaway here to understand is as we get to the next couple of slides, Doug, if you could fast forward, please. Next slide.
Okay.
Something weird going on with the sound. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, it's not coming through. Doug, pause that.
He's not clicking through. It's a video. Oh, okay. That's probably why.
Yeah. It's going through his computer audio. Doug, do you have an opportunity to turn it up?
The way to push video through would be to have preloaded it.
Yeah.
Okay.
He did not do it.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Right. I'll send
No
you a link.
worries.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the prelude to the total line flex offering. So when I was just talking about the variable speeds and the constant torques of the world, so the constant torques, which you would see as a 5-pin, and in a more detailed discussion, I have a 2-hour, 2.5-hour presentation where we go a little more in depth with this. So if you find yourself needing that after we have this conversation, just please reach out. But essentially, the Flex series of total line motors are offered to you guys. There's 8 SKUs in total. There's 6 SKUs that cover what I would refer to as an ECM to ECM replacement, and that's an ECM constant torque replacement. So that's a 5-pin. So on the bottom of that pinout, you'll see 1 through 5. On the top of it, you'll see CLGN, so common, line, ground, and neutral. So if you've got that and then 5 pinouts on the bottom, it'll look white or black or whatever. The plastic housing doesn't matter. As long as the pinouts look that way, you have a constant torque in front of you. So you can replace that with a total line flex. You'll see here that there's 6 SKUs. There's 3 SKUs for 115 volt, or think furnaces, and there's 3 SKUs for 28230, think fan coils and heat pumps and stuff like that. All available to you. You can buy them as needed, a good truck stock item. These are pretty much as close as a drop-in, plug-and-play aftermarket universal part as you're going to get. So it uses the existing harness if it's detachable. If you come across a broad ocean style constant torque, which broad ocean motors are only constant torque ECMs right now. So if you come across that and it has the pigtail looking harness off the module, there's a harness included in the box that you can swap out. Additionally, if you need a bracket for the motor, most are interchangeable. You can slide them off and use the same bracket and same wire harness. If you need a bracket, we do offer some of those that you can also buy through your local TEC Excelsior locations. The other easy part to these motors is it's basically matching your horsepower and voltage and you're good to go. So really it's just confirming and identifying the correct type of ECM, identifying the correct voltage and horsepower. And then if for some reason you need a harness, it's in the box. And if you need a bracket, you can always buy that as well separate. Most of them are interchangeable. Next slide. Additionally to the lineup, we have 2 Flex Psc motors. So the nomenclature here being P257-Flex Psc. There's 2 of them, dual voltage. What these motors are is they're an upgrade solution. So you can take out a permanent split capacitor motor and replace it with an ECM technology type style motor. The idea behind this is improving efficiency. So like we talked about in the first couple of slides briefly, PSCs run at about 59, 60%. So that's just the quick way of thinking that is 100% power into the motor. On the back end of it, what you're actually getting out of it is 60% efficiency. An ECM motor, you put that line to it, you put that power to it, you're getting 82% on average out of an ECM. So you're upgrading the efficiency of the unit. Again, these are a drop-in installation where it connects directly to the standard PSC. There are additional resources and slides and everything we can go through if need be, or we can send them out to you folks that show the wiring. So it's typical wiring for a PSC motor. The difference in this motor, it looks like the Flex, the other 6 SKUs, but the 5 taps are actually your high voltage taps. So you'd run back your black for high, your blue for medium, your red for low, whatever the unit calls for, you have additional taps for all of that. And you have medium, high, and low medium taps available to you as well if you got to dial it in. Very plug and play. It's the same concept, so you can use the existing bracket. Also, if you're going to use it in an application where you got to switch from 115 to 208, there's actually a small plug-in that comes with it that you plug into the side of the module, and you're ready to rock. So you don't have to do much there either. There's no external surge protection, nothing additional to do. There are some blue motors out there. I'll leave those. I won't bring in the name, but there's blue motors out there that have a lot of wire harnessing going on and surge protection and reversible wires and all this crazy stuff. That is not the case with the Flex motor lineup. Very plug and play. Next slide, please. So to kind of pinpoint or hit home on the PSC Flex motor lineup, some ways to look at it as an upgrade option here. It's an AC condenser getting replaced. So you have a furnace and a condenser. I'm in upstate New York, so I have very similar weather to you guys. So replacing the air conditioning, it's an old R22 or whatever. The indoor unit is in good shape, and maybe there's an avenue here to offer an additional replacement opportunity that doesn't necessarily swap out the indoor unit. And when I say that, I'm stating that basically, like I touched on in the first couple of slides, what drives the efficiency of that indoor unit is the motor. It's a substantial part of it. So if you're putting on new AC for somebody and maybe their budget doesn't necessarily can't withstand replacing the indoor unit, or you offer them, you know, your higher tier, your mid tier, and then say to them, you know what, if you're really struggling with having to replace everything, I can offer you this additional way of doing this, where we put in your new 16 tier or above, or something really nice, and let me do a really nice clean and check, PM check, let me check your heat exchanger, all that great stuff, make sure your indoor unit's good, and I can swap out your direct drive PSC blower motor with this new ECM technology that now improves the efficiency of your indoor unit and actually gives you the opportunity to capitalize on the SEER rating of your outdoor unit. So it's a great way to kind of spin that angle. Some success in some other regions down in the South where they were able to do that and, you know, win a few more jobs. You're not gonna, you know, it's an upgrade solution. So again, the motor is going to be more expensive than a typical motor replacement, but it's going to be a small fraction of the indoor unit cost. Next slide, please. So to also touch on that, you may have customers that are asking you things like, my child suffers from allergies. Is there anything I can do about the dust? Utility bills, obviously with everything, this current state of the union, that's a big deal. The AC unit replacement, we already touched on that. And how do I fix uneven temperatures? All things that the Flex Psc motor can help with by adding additional opportunities, tying it into IAQ bundles. If you're offering that, showing them how efficiency is driven by the motor, touching base on utility bill. A few years ago, I tried to get a document published, but legal wouldn't allow it, where I was trying to show how many cents and dollars you'd save. But there is a formula to that, where basically I tell people on the outside of your home, where the electrical company comes to look at your how many watts you're using, how many times that spins around, right? It's going to be less with this motor. You can operate this motor on the low speed at about 400 CFM all the time. Leave it on all the time. It'll still cost less than what you were running the unit up before. And your IAQ actually has the opportunity to work 100% of the time, because if your IAQ is not working if your motor is not moving the air. So if you use something like this, it gives you that opportunity to clean your air more consistently all the time. Next slide. So with all that being said, another resource or another way to get to some of these tools, it still says totalighting.com on there. It's not necessarily the case. That's been updated to the fasthvacparts.com. But you do have access to all of these things here, catalogs, cross-reference tools, as we touched on a moment ago, training videos, literature, advertising, images, merchandising. You will find that with, like Doug mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we have opened TotalLine to all, and we want to grow with our customers, especially on this side of the fence. So if you need anything, you know, please reach out and we can facilitate it. Motors accessories. So as you're looking at the catalogs or what's available to you, when you're thinking pulleys, belts, bearings, capacitors, bushings, shafts, there's a pitch gauge we sell. All that stuff is available through TotalLine. In the catalog, you can find all sorts of brackets, mounting brackets. There's a couple kits, flex mount kits that could go with the flex motors. I don't know them offhand. I want to say they're P25 ones. 0039, I believe, is one of them. But there's a couple that you can offer. You know, you could keep on the trucks, and you could swap out all those ECM motors out there. And then last but not least, you know, the truck stock opportunity here, having motors on the vehicle, on the van, to make sure you're getting all the jobs done. I will tell you that if you were to come to me and Doug and folks and ask, well, what can I do to you know, stock up my vehicle to handle motors, right? So if you're thinking in that way, in terms of that, you could probably realistically carry 2 or 3 flex motors, the 2 PSC upgrade motors, and then we offer multi-horse PSC TotalLine motors. So, and there's 7 there. So really the whole gamut, you know, for about a dozen motors, you can cover pretty much anything you're going to run into. So that being said, appreciate the time here. I think we're doing a pretty good job. I'll turn it back over to Doug. If we still have Doug.
Okay, yep, there we are. All right, yep, thanks. Yeah, so that's it. Again, thank you first of all for the business that we do have today. And I think most of you are day and night dealers, so we absolutely appreciate that. But if you're not doing a whole lot in parts, consider National Excelsior for parts. And not only when, obviously, when you're working on day and night equipment, but when you're working on other brands of equipment out there, there's a lot of things that these guys are stocking, from aftermarket TXVs to compressors, motors, a lot of opportunity out there to grow your business, to grow your parts business. And again, with somebody that does an excellent job of stocking parts. So with that, I think we'll turn it over to see maybe if there are any questions.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, you can either type them in the chat question box, or you can do that little hand raise thing, and I can unmute you, and you can ask it verbally, whatever you prefer. So what do you guys got? Super quiet group. No one wants to interrogate Mike and Doug? All right. Well, if nobody has any questions, then I guess we'll thank Doug and Mike for their time, and we'll see you guys later.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks,
gentlemen.
guys.